Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Per Executive Order 251, all attendees at the Board of Education meeting must properly wear a face covering over nose and mouth. Any individual not wearing a face covering will be asked to wear a face covering or leave the meeting. If anyone fails to either wear a face covering or leave the meeting, the Board of Education will adjourn the meeting. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised on the district website on January 14th, 2021, and by posting a notice in the Forked River Post Office and the Lenoka Harbor Post Office, and by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Clerk, as required by the Open Public Meeting Act. Mr. DeGeorge, could we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Mrs. Claus.
Here.
Mr. Scanlon.
Here.
Mr. Peters.
Here.
Mrs. DeSenza.
Here.
Mrs. Downing.
Here.
Mr. Polino.
Present.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Present, thank you. At this time, it is the agenda meeting. We will have public comment for agenda items only. If you have any comments or statements that do not appear on the agenda, we ask you to come at 7 o'clock to make your public statement. An audience member wishing to make a comment shall raise his or her hand, and when called upon, state their name, address, or affiliation, and intention to make a statement. Comments shall be limited to agenda items only. Comments shall be addressed to the board president. Comments shall be made on one issue at a time and limited to 5 minutes. No audience member will be recognized twice until all who wish to comment have been recognized. At this time, are there any comments on the agenda items? Seeing none, we will have board member and superintendent comments. Dr. Clark?
Nothing right now, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Claus?
Yes, I have a question about the health and safety guidance. I just want clarification. So now we're back, everyone has masks on. So it just says that, okay, people who are vaccinated and have no symptoms and so students that are wearing masks or vaccinated and have no symptoms are not considered a close contact, and then they don't have to be quarantined. So just so I'm understanding, if
Okay.
Regina and I are sitting here, and then I have COVID.
Correct.
Regina, because we're both masked, can stay now?
Correct.
Oh,
As long as you properly wear your masks.
okay.
In
So there's no
school,
more quarantining
okay?
around us?
As long as everybody's wearing their mask. If you're vaccinated, with or without a mask,
Yes.
you don't get quarantined.
Okay,
Interesting.
that's good. Okay, so just another,
It's a quirk in the rule, and
That's
how the
good, we'll
rule
take it.
works, and what they've put on
yeah.
is correct.
So I don't know if anybody's interested in, if we can maybe write the governor another letter, but if we can possibly consider talking about people who have had COVID, if they would also be considered,
They are, for 90 days.
I mean, like an antibody test, instead of saying they've had a vaccine, like if they have antibodies, which that's what the COVID test does, the COVID shot does, it's giving you antibodies. So I'm just thinking ahead, like for a teacher, she's already had it. Would he accept, I know he doesn't now, but if we can write a letter maybe to say that they can accept the antibody test if they have antibodies. So just food for thought. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. DeSenza?
I have a couple of questions. I was asked if a teacher can hold a BSI job at one school and detention supervisor at another. My guess was yes, but do the time frames overlap? But one, is it like a day job and one's an after-school job?
Dr. Clark?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
Sure. Can a teacher hold a BSI job at one school and detention supervisor at another? Do the time frames overlap? And my guess was if one's during the school day and one's after school, which I think a detention supervisor usually is, correct?
It's after school, it's not during school.
Right, so the two jobs would coincide. That was my guess and answer to the person.
What do you mean coincide?
Well, one thing you do like till 3 o'clock, and then after 3 o'clock, you're a detention supervisor. You don't teach basic skills after 3 o'clock.
Right, that's correct.
Right,
You
that's,
don't.
okay, that's what I wanted to be sure of. I have a question regarding an HIB complaint from July when I was absent, so I'd like to put that in private session, please.
For about HIV, what?
Yeah, HIB complaint, yes. I had a question from a parent, so I want to mention it in private session because it's a student matter. So could we just put that on the private session agenda? It's just a quick question, or actually, it's a statement that I got from a
Is it,
parent.
is it an existing HIB?
It was, and now it's coming back to like reinvent itself. I'll explain it, but the
Well,
person is,
it's a student matter, so.
right, has to go in private session. I just
Correct.
want to,
Okay.
tell you what I heard and was told. Attachment B17 shows books and materials dated back as far as 2005, and some world language books are dating back to 1988. I would just like to make sure that if we're using these materials, they're not falling apart, they're not ripped, broken, ruined, et cetera. I mean, because 1988 is a little old.
Mr. Zelinski, would you like to answer that?
You'll see on the curriculum items, sometimes there are older items on there. It's items that teachers have generally held on to either as class sets,
All right.
or they use them just for reference materials, because as we know, sometimes what they put out years ago just can't compare to certain stuff today.
Okay.
They might make copies from them, but we want to leave them on there just so the public knows that we're
Okay.
still using those editions.
Okay, I just didn't want them to be like
Yeah,
tattered
they're not
and
distributed
torn
on a
and falling
daily
apart.
use to
Okay.
students, no.
All right. And then I was discussing earlier with Mrs. Claus, there will be a vacancy on the New Jersey School Board Association Legislative Committee come January. And if anyone wants to serve as my alternate, for when I go off the committee, you have to apply and ask to be put on the committee. Okay? That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
Page 5, Section 10, quotations. If possible, I'd like to see the, here at St. Meticulous Landscaping had no response, and they were called out for the landscape project. I'd like to see whether that was a phone call or email, proof for that, please.
Sure, I mean, what I was told was a phone call.
Okay, can I see proof of that, please?
I'll try to get it for you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the curriculum committee. Number 6, the co-curriculum advisor stipends. They brought back the ROTC program. Thank you for that. I'll be voting yes on that tonight. And also, the Crisis Prevention Institute is an awesome program. Thank you for that also.
And Mr. Peters, if I could just clarify, the ROTC, we just submitted the application for that.
So
So
why are
it's-
we approving the stipend?
That's going to be taken off.
No. Mrs. Downing,
Private.
that was for the, Mrs.
Club.
Downing, didn't we discuss that it was for the, they're having a junior program here at the high school for the ROTC? They're starting as a club,
Yes. They are, but we,
and that's what the stipend was for. Okay.
So
all right.
that's just an advisor stipend?
They're going to start a club, hopefully get 10 to 15 students, and then at the same time, we're submitting the application
Oh,
to
to
become a
the
full,
ROTC to be
yes.
approved to
to-
do it.
Hopefully,
Gotcha.
they'll approve us,
Even
but
better.
by us starting the club, we're hoping that the people will recognize how interested we are and, approve us over other schools since we have a club going.
but it's going.
Good, awesome, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, do you have more, Mr. Peters?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Mrs. Downing?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Scanlon?
Yeah, I have one question on page 6, number 12, the toilet room facilities.
Yes.
Exactly, I mean, I know we're looking for a waiver and not, I mean, we're looking for a waiver, but where exactly are the toilets for that room?
Right. Further away than the sight line. That's the best I can tell you. They do need, they're not in the classroom, they're not in the sight line, so we have to have a toilet waiver. That's what we did. Remember we did that in the June meeting for the elementary schools? Well, now we have a preschool here, and the toilet is too far according to the code, so we need to ask the DOE for a waiver. It's the same thing that we did in June for the other elementaries.
For the other element?
Yeah,
for the
so
el-
that,
right.
if the child goes to the
I
toilet,
understand it, yeah.
they'll get escorted.
They do get escorted?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
I-
If it's
well-
out of sight line, they have to get escorted. Yep.
Well, okay,
Yep.
that was my question.
Yes,
in the
sir.
long run.
Is there so little?
Right.
Is that good,
Especially
Mr.
dealing with
Scanlon?
Preschool, that's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
Mr. Polino?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, and I also have nothing. At this time, Mr. DeGeorge, private session, please.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Be it resolved that a private session be convened for the purpose of discussing confidential student matters, HIB, confidential personnel matters, confidential legal matters, including but not limited to the current caseload, confidential contractual matters, collective bargaining. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. The length of the private session is estimated to be 45 minutes, after which the board shall reconvene and proceed with business. Action may be taken. Motion second, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Welcome to private.
Okay, we'll return at 7 o'clock. Thank you.